Remember this? This is the official Vocational Expert Handbook given to you as courtesy of the Social Security Administration and their approved roadmap to get you along the way. But like we said in the last episode, it's definitely not enough. Good morning. I'm Marilyn Stroud, CEO and owner of Stroud Vocational Expert Services. I'm here today to talk through the next level of understanding the content in the Social Security Administration's Vocational Expert Handbook and adapting or actually applying some of that key terminology that we talked about in the last video to the nuts and bolts of what you're going to do as a Social Security Administration vocational expert. Thanks for joining me. I just showed you the VE Handbook from the SSA as a reminder of what we talked about last week. The terminology is critical to establishing a baseline for becoming a Social Security Administration vocational expert. The next level is actually understanding what the role entails. The VE Handbook covers the baseline of that role overall, and you'll start to quickly understand that. Everything that the VE Handbook gives you is only more of a checklist and a description, but not really a how-to. The VE Handbook covers such situations as determining initial disability for Title II and Title 16 cases for Supplemental Security Income, SSI, and then breaks down the actual 5-step sequential evaluation process used to determine disability according to the SSA, and where the vocational expert really has a part to play. SSAVEs also play a role in determining continuing disability and then redeterminations for youth that are classified as disabled but then hit the age of 18. There's also something called a close period. Regardless of where you fit in this process, the actual application of what you do on a continuum basis as an SSA vocational expert really remains the same. The next section really starts breaking that down for you through issues such as vocational factors and understanding where age, education, and work experience rolls into the actual process of determining disability. SSA guidelines regarding disability becomes a critical factor in what you do on a day-to-day basis, as well as exertional categories and skill levels that claimants have picked up and are capable of accomplishing along the way. These then establish a baseline for what is known as residual functional capacity, and where that skill level and overall exertional category applies to the disability situation for said claimant. When you combine these inputs together, they go into what is presented to you in every single hearing in the form of a hypothetical question. These hypotheticals are given to you by the administrative law judge. There's a basic overall hypothetical that is built on the residual functional capacity, or better known as the RFC. The RFC is determined by the combination of factors: the DDS determination, the State Disability Determination Services, that is, the claimant testimony, medical evidence, and vocational factors, including the onset date, past 15 years of work, claimant's age, and education. The RFC is then presented to the vocational expert as a hypothetical person. The standard number of hypotheticals the administrative law judge will present are 3, but it varies depending on the evidence presented. I've had up to 8 at a time presented. This data may then elevate to determine the transferability of skills, which depends on age and whether they can continue to do past relevant work or whether they could actually transfer those skills to some new occupation in competitive employment. The handbook then closes with understanding relating to you the Social Security ruling, which is your testimony, how it is overall supported by proven data in the Dictionary of Occupational Titles and in the rules that are governed by the Social Security Administration. Another form of hearing is called an interrogatory, which is covered as a written form of testimony, where you, as the vocational expert, have actually more time to do research and provide a thought-out reply, and then submit that to the Social Security Administration to support remand type hearings or possibly post-hearing interrogatories, where additional information requested by the administrative law judge to make a final determination. There are also interrogatories that will not involve a formal hearing. It all varies based upon each claimant's situation. So overall, you can tell that the SSAVE Handbook is a great start and a great place of source information for the basics, and for you to go back to make sure you understand the terminology and the nuts and bolts of what a vocational expert does on a day-to-day basis. But at the end of the day, that's it. It's more of a checklist, more of a guide, more of a reference than an actual how-to. The how-to, or the real training, comes either on the job or via some type of formal training program. So possibly a colleague who's willing to spend some time with you to teach you the basics. There are a few avenues and tons of resources, but it becomes very confusing to a new vocational expert. Thus, most VEs just jump in, hope they figure it out, and they survive. Not really a good start to go about it. The last thing a VE wants is an administrative law judge determining that the testimony is not credible and will be removed from the case. It can impact the ability for the VE to be scheduled in future hearings. The ALJ all talk among themselves and the various hearing offices. It is important to know your stuff, or your credibility can diminish quite rapidly and your new career can go down the tubes very quickly. A formal training process is the best investment in your newfound career direction. The VELaunchpad has developed with all these factors in mind. I know from my experience how scary it is at the beginning with limited knowledge of the process and what really is expected. The VELaunchpad provides you with all the tools and all the tricks to the trade to become a successful and credible vocational expert with SSA. And you can actually earn pre-approved CEU credits along the way towards the ABVE or the CRC. The VELaunchpad is now designated as a preferred training provider for the credentialing authority for the CRC. If that's something that sounds good to you, check us out now at stroudve.talentlms.com or in the link in the episode notes. Remember, we will be here every week, so don't miss it. Subscribe now or hit the bell. Let's start learning together.